You know, when we think about academic cheating, our minds usually jump to high schoolers or college students. But what if the roots of it all start way, way earlier? Today, we're going to dig into the childhood origins of cheating to figure out what really makes a kid decide to break the rules.
It's the big question, right? One that parents and teachers have been wrestling with forever. Is it about a kid's character, their confidence, or is there something else entirely going on? That's what we're going to explore.
And we're not just throwing theories around here. We're diving into a really fascinating new study from researchers at the University of British Columbia and the University of Toronto. They set out to find some real, solid answers by watching how kids actually behave.
All right, so let's start with what you might call the usual suspects. I think most of us, if we had to guess, would say that a child's personality, or maybe how much they believe in themselves, would be the biggest reasons they might decide to cheat. And that's exactly what the researchers looked at. They examined the big 5 personality traits, things like how conscientious or agreeable a kid is. They also measured self-efficacy, which is just a fancy term for a child's belief that they can succeed. And of course, they kept track of age and gender too.
Now here's where it gets really clever. To figure this out, they didn't just ask the kids that they cheat. No way. They designed this brilliant experiment to see it happen in real time, observing 388 children between 4 and 12 years old.
So here's the setup. Each child was given a bunch of tasks to do. But the final round of each task was secretly designed to be almost impossible to solve. Then the researcher would say something like, "Oops, I forgot something," and leave the child completely alone to finish up. And this is key. Their parents weren't in the room either. The whole thing secretly recorded.
And these weren't just random puzzles. The tasks were meant to feel like a real school test. They covered everything from math problems and general knowledge, like identifying animal sounds, all the way to motor skills, like trying to balance on one foot.
Okay, so the researchers collected all this incredible data, crunched the numbers, and what they found, well, it pretty much challenges everything we thought we knew about why young kids cheat.
So remember those usual suspects we talked about? Personality, confidence, all the things we were pretty sure would be the answer? Well, it turns out they didn't matter. Not really. In this age group, the data showed absolutely no significant link between a child's personality traits or their belief in their own abilities and whether or not they cheated. That's right, how agreeable a kid was or how confident they felt had basically no bearing on their actions here.
So, if it's not personality and it's not self-confidence, what is it? Well, the study did find 2 factors that were clear predictors of cheating, and honestly, they might surprise you.
First up, age. This chart shows it perfectly. There was a really clear trend. The older the children got, the less likely they were to cheat. The biggest change seems to happen right between those preschool years and middle childhood. And the second factor? It was gender. The data consistently show that boys cheated more often than girls. Now, the researchers are quick to point out that it was a small difference, but it was statistically significant, and it actually lines up with what other studies have found in older students too. This leads to the real head-scratcher, doesn't it? Why didn't all those things we expected to matter, like personality and confidence, have any connection to cheating for these kids?
Well, according to the researchers, the key word here is development. For young kids, their personalities and their sense of self-confidence are still a work in progress. They just haven't solidified yet. So those things aren't strong enough to really guide their behavior one way or another. And as for the gender difference, they think it might have something to do with early socialization, where boys are sometimes encouraged to be bigger risk takers.
Look, this is more than just some interesting trivia. Understanding these patterns has huge real-world implications for how we as adults can help foster honesty and integrity from a very young age.
So, what's the bottom line here? First, when a young kid cheats, it's more likely a developmental phase, not some permanent flaw in their character. Second, for young kids, things like their age and social environment might be way more important than their budding personalities. And knowing this is powerful stuff. It can help us build schools and homes that actually encourage integrity.
And that really leaves us with one final and I think crucial question to ponder. Knowing what we now know, that cheating behavior changes over time and is shaped by outside forces, how can we all, parents and educators alike, build environments that nurture honesty right from the get-go?
That is definitely something important for all of us to think about. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer.